Hey, so tonight I was lucky enough to attend this special screening of The Black Phone. I gotta say it wasn't through my connections, my wife got the invite and I kind of just tagged along, but it was definitely exciting. Even though this film is already out in a bunch of other countries, it doesn't come out for a whole ass other month here in Australia apparently, so yeah, definitely pretty early and definitely really exciting to be able to get that opportunity. Anyway, so The Black Phone is about this main character Finney, who's like a 13, 14-year-old boy or whatever, who gets abducted by this villainous character that we only know as the Grabber, as he chucks him into this dark, dirty, old basement, seemingly with no way out, and everything seems super dour and hopeless. That is until Finney starts receiving phone calls from the abductor's previous victims, who all begin to give hints in their own creepy ways that Finney can piece together through these lost memories and kind of translate into his own dark, modern setting that he's found himself in. As he does so, he kind of starts to learn new things about the room, and it kind of shows just how vital little pieces of information can be, because once he learns something about this side of the room, he can kind of use that, and you know, once he learns different things about different stuff in the room, it all becomes a lot more clear in terms of his options and what he can do to try and fight back and to try and find his way out of this room. It's much like one of those real life escape rooms that you can do in real life, how once you go in at first, everything seems just like you don't know what the hell is going on, but once you start figuring certain things out together, you know, it all becomes a little bit more clear and you can figure out how to get yourself out of it. That's very much what The Black Phone is about, and I just found that premise really interesting, and I really like that, especially with its mix of supernatural horror elements going on as well, where I like that stuff because it allowed some creepy moments and stuff and some jump scares, but it didn't rely heavily on it. The real threat here was the main antagonist, and that couldn't have felt more real, and I really loved that kind of mix. It's something that you don't see a lot. Usually the main threat is going to be the horrible supernatural thing damning you to hell or whatever, but there was a great mix of kind of both here that I did really appreciate, and overall the whole thing felt really grounded, surprisingly so, and I really appreciated that as well. And that was of course all thanks to Scott Derrickson, the director, who after fucking around a bit in the superhero genre and doing Doctor Strange in 2016, he's finally come back to the horror genre, the horror family, and I couldn't be happier, because I gotta say this is his best film, and I think that's by far, because even though he did Sinister, which came out a decade ago, just by the way, that came out in 2012, I gotta say that even though I think Sinister is solid, it starts to disinterest me a little bit come the end, but The Black Phone is solid all the way through, and I absolutely love it. I think it's honestly an ingenious film, and I think Scott Derrickson did a really great job here. Even though it wasn't all him, this is based on a short story that I haven't read, but my wife actually read on the way to the cinema, because it's only about 19 pages. Anyway, basically what she told me about this short story is that it is just about void of a lot of what is in this film. It's not too heavy in terms of the context that's going on. It's pretty, it's pretty short. There's only so much you can fit in 19 pages. And so obviously Scott Derrickson and co added a lot here and really adapted this into their own thing, which I just think is really cool. And yeah, I don't know, I think The Black Phone was really impressive. It was a lot more impressive to me than I was expecting. I had a hell of a fun time with it, even though I gotta say it's not a fun film. The Black Phone is like upsetting and cynical and tragic more than anything. Yes, it has like jump scares and it's kind of scary in its own way, and it's definitely an outright horror film through and through, but I gotta say it's more emotionally effective more so than anything. I gotta say that I just found this to be really just sad. I felt really sad for the main characters in the film, and I just thought it felt pessimistic. There was something mean-spirited about it. Like, the kids at the start, even before the horror stuff, are beating each other up, like beating each other to a pulp and stuff. And this film doesn't hold back in its details there. Like, everything just feels just really sad in a really, really strong way that I was impressed by. I felt bad watching it in a good way, in the way that it was intended. And I think that not a lot of films can make you feel that way that also has a bunch of silly stuff going on in terms of having like creepy supernatural moments and everything, if that makes any sense. You know, this is a film with like thrills, but it doesn't rely on them. It's very much a solid story here, and the storytelling is done really, really well. But yeah, basically The Black Phone feels really intense and scary, but not so much scary in terms of me feeling scared for myself, like, but more so I just felt really worried for the main characters. And pretty much everything that I've praised so far is all really thanks to Ethan Hawke as this villain, the Grabber, who is basically borderline unrecognizable in this film. You know, you can recognize him, you can see him in there, you can see his eyes, but only just, because there is something truly monstrous about this character that he brings to life. And it's really fucked up to to be honest. And there was something deeply upsetting about being around this character as well, because you didn't know which way he was going to play it from scene to scene, and you didn't quite know what he was capable of, and it seemed like he had no boundaries or limitations to what he was willing to do in terms of dark shit to his victims, which was just obviously really disturbing. I also really hated about this character that he liked to fuck with his victims as well. Like, he'd give them false hope, he'd give them little games that he kind of, like, he fucks with them in terms of power dynamic and everything. He knows exactly what he's doing in each situation, so he'll leave the door open and see if they try and escape, ready for them. He'll, you know, do all of these other sorts of things like that, and it just felt even more so mean-spirited to me as he plays with this power dynamic, and it just felt really purely evil, but in a really grounded way that I was just really affected by. It was icky. Okay, that sounds like it's not a strong word to use here, but there was just something about this character, the Grabber, that just felt like fucking sickening. And I think it takes a lot to make me think that, to be honest. And I think that this character was done really, really, really well. That is all to say that the whole film isn't all completely dour and pessimistic and horrible in that kind of way. There are some moments of like funny moments and everything that I really enjoyed. The sister character of the main character who's trying to help out in the situation is hilarious. She's like this smart ass little girl who like swears at strangers and stuff. And I don't know, man. She was just funny. We kind of needed that in this film about like child abductions and stuff, because yeah, as far as films about child abductions, The Black Phone is very upsetting for the most part, but there were these sort of little moments of levity that I appreciated about it. Anyway, so yeah, The Black Phone really affected me a lot more than I was expecting, to be honest. I thought it was definitely really creative. I liked the mix of supernatural and realistic threats, and I thought it was just creepy as fuck, and I loved it a lot, to be honest. This is Scott Derrickson's best film, and I hugely recommend everybody go see it. Everybody should see it because it's great, and it deserves our respect and attention and money, because I want it to get supported, and I want Scott Derrickson to make more films like this instead of going back to the MCU. Look, I love the MCU, and I don't want to shit on it too much, but you belong here, man. Let's make more original horror films like this, because I really appreciated it. And yeah, it was awesome. And that's about all that I have to say. So thanks for watching. Please, before you go, remember to do the things, all that stuff. And whoops, I'm gonna go. Goodbye.